There are 5 words associated with Santa and with Christmas that the average person really doesn't need to worry about. The first one is Homoousios. What in the world is that, you might ask? And well, you should. This goes back to before I became Santa Claus, when I was Nicholas, the Bishop of Myra in Lycia. I was at the first Christian council ever. It was held in Nicaea in 325 AD. And one of the things that all of the bishops were talking about was, how was Jesus connected with God? We know he was the Son of God, but was he equal to God? Was he inferior to God? How did this all work out? Well, the majority of the bishops present believed that they were of the same essence. Homoousios in Greek. Well, there was one priest, his name was Arius, that felt that Jesus, since he was born, couldn't be the same as God, and said that he was different. He was very adamant in his positions. Well, Nicholas decided to have a little talk with him and start to explain how they felt that God the Son and God the Father were the same in essence. Arius wouldn't have it. Started getting a little flip. Nicholas very politely tried reasoning with him, because Arius was young and a priest, and Nicholas was older and a bishop, so should be a mentor-student. Arius wasn't having it, and he got a little more mouthy. Nicholas very patiently tried talking with him again and settling him down, and Arius decided he was just going to get downright rude. He didn't get coal in his stocking. St. Nicholas slapped him. That was bad enough, because it was a group of bishops, it was at a church, and that's really not how it should have been handled. To make matters worse, Arius, the priest, was a friend of the Emperor Constantine. Constantine took an assault upon his friend as a personal insult, and Nicholas found himself sitting in a jail cell. And there he would have stayed, except that night Constantine had a dream where he was standing in an empty church, and he heard somebody behind him, and he turned around, and there's St. Nicholas. Constantine said, "Who let you out of jail?" "I didn't do it." And the voice behind him said, "I did." And he turned around and he saw Jesus standing at the altar next to the Virgin Mary. The Virgin Mary proceeds to give Nicholas back all of his bishop's vestments, and Jesus put the gospel book in Nicholas's hand. Constantine woke up the next day and decided that maybe he had been a little hasty. So that is where Homoousios comes in. Later on, the bishops all got together and they were able to hash out their disagreements, and they came to realize that yes, God the Father and God the Son have the same essence without being the same person. The other 2 words that you really don't have to worry about too much, at least not here in the United States, are Ded Moroz and Snegurochka. Ded Moroz is Grandfather Frost, and Snegurochka is his granddaughter, the Snow Maiden. Now, in the old days in Russia, when people were worried about the winters being too harsh, frost being too severe, the cold being too biting, to kind of make sure that things wouldn't get too bad, on the first day of winter, they would invite in the frost. They'd invite it in for dinner. They'd even set a place for it at the table. And hopefully that the winter would be fairly mild. Well, over time, instead of just being the embodiment of the frost, they began to see him as the symbol of winter. And so they began to look forward to him. And soon he took on a lot of the characteristics that I have, even to the point of bringing gifts and rewarding the good behavior of people and punishing the bad. And he and his beautiful granddaughter, the Snow Maiden, loved to visit people during the winter, right around the winter solstice. And they would stay until snows began to melt and it was time for them to go back into the woods. Ded Moroz is very popular in the Baltic countries, in Russia, in Ukraine, many parts of Eastern Europe. He's usually dressed in blue and white, the colors of frost in winter. And his granddaughter, the Snow Maiden, is also dressed in blue and white with lots of diamonds and things that sparkle, representing the beautiful frost that plays on the window panes. She's also a tragic figure in many operas because she longs to feel what love is, because she sees in all the homes that she visits, she sees the loving family, the mother, the father, the grandparents, the children, the brothers, the sisters, the friends. And she wants to know what that feels like. And she travels around and she looks for it and tries to find somebody to help her feel love. And she meets them, and she meets the young man named Spring. And she begins to feel his warmth and his love. And tragically, being a snow maiden, when it gets warm and spring arrives, she melts away. But that's just in the operas, and I've never come across an opera where everybody lives happily ever after. The other word that you really don't have to worry about, at least not here in the United States, and at least not for the most part, is Kallikantzaroi. These are Christmas goblins. They like hanging around. Usually they dwell under the ground, but they hear all the festivities at Christmas and they come up to see what in the world is going on. Well, because everybody's having such a good time celebrating Christmas, from the 12 days of Christmas, from Christmas Day until Epiphany, people aren't usually paying attention to them. So they get to do all kinds of pranks and practical jokes. And sometimes they don't exercise a great deal of restraint. And sometimes the practical jokes they think are harmless, the people on the receiving end, not so much. So there are a variety of ways that if you notice things are starting to get a little haywire, there are a bunch of ways that you can take care of that and make them behave. One is to burn the Yule log, keep a fire going in the fireplace. What if you don't have a fireplace? It's kind of difficult because another one of the things that they do when they really get out of hand is they toss an old shoe on the fire. They figure the smell of a burning old shoe is going to chase everybody else out of the house. It might as well chase the goblins. But, like I said, what if you don't have a fireplace? Let's see. I think I remember them telling... Oh, yes. Now I remember. You take a colander, a strainer, something that you wash vegetables in or you drain spaghetti in, and you leave it by your front door. They're very inquisitive. They're also obsessive compulsive. So they have to count out every single hole in the colander. But there's a problem. They don't get past the number 3. 3 is the symbol of the Trinity. So 1, 2, 3, and they get nervous, so they go back. And they start all over again. And by the time dawn shows up, they have to go away. And so there you go. The 5th word is seldom known outside of Spain or France, but this is a lot more pleasant. It's Olentzero. And that is a Basque character. The Basques live up in northeastern Spain, the border with France. They have a lot of their own language. They have a lot of their own traditions. one of which is Olentzero. He is a very friendly mountain giant, and he will often show up around Christmas time, attracted by the bells, attracted by the music, the smells of feasting, the sound of the sleigh bells, the sound of the carols, the bright colors, and he loves to take part in the celebrations. Now, living up in the mountains, he lives in the woods. So he's a very accomplished woodsman. He loves to sit and carve wooden figurines. And those are his gifts that he loves to bring out for the good children, for the good people, to help join in the Christmas celebrations. So there you have 5 words that you don't have to worry too much about. But knowing about them kind of adds a little bit more spice to the Christmas holiday, doesn't it?